Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm reviewing the NZXT Capsule microphone. You heard that right, NZXT has gotten into the microphone game with the Capsule and their Boom Mic Arm, which I've done a video on already. I'll make sure I have a link for that pop up right now in the corner so you guys can check that video out. Of course, this is the microphone I'm using to record the audio voiceover work with this right now, so no short audio samples in this video. This is the raw audio currently, but I will be applying the adaptive noise reduction in Premiere Pro once I start covering the specs, just to make sure it sounds clean. With that being said though, I am surprised at how minimal the noise is with this microphone. As always, I'll be covering the specs first before getting into the things that I like and don't like about it, and then wrapping everything up. So let's get into the specs. The NZXT Capsule is a unidirectional cardioid-only polar pattern tuned for speech and designed to minimize background noise pickup. The frequency response is 20 Hz to 20 kHz with a max sound pressure level of 120 decibels. The total harmonic distortion is 0.1% at 1 kHz, which is a measurement usually given as a percentage of the amount of distortion present in the signal that the audio equipment is producing. The bit depth is 24 bits and the sample rate is 96 kHz. The connection is a USB-C to USB-A cable. The cable is roughly 10 feet, and I say roughly because I had to measure it myself as I couldn't find that info anywhere on their website or the package. On the bottom of the microphone is where you will find the USB-C port and the headphone jack for monitoring your audio. The headphone amp impedance is 16 ohms. The amp total harmonic distortion is less than 0.1% at 1 kHz. The frequency response is 15 Hz to 22 kHz, and the signal to noise ratio is 100 decibels. The mic is constructed out of an extruded aluminum with a PC ABS shell. There are no washers or screws you have to deal with on the stand, as it just clips in and has an internal shock to reduce noise pickup if you accidentally bump it. If you do want to mount this on a boom mic arm, it does come with a female 1/4 inch adapter as well. This weighs 314 grams without the stand and 883 grams with the stand, and it comes with a very nice 2-year warranty. On the front of the mic you will find 2 dials. The top one controls the gain, and when pressed it will mute the mic, and the bottom one controls the headphone volume. At the bottom of the mic you will find a light that is white when the mic is powered on, and this will turn red if you mute the mic. So now that I've covered these specs, let's get into what I like about this microphone, and for this portion I'm going to turn the adaptive noise reduction back off so you can hear the microphone again with just the raw audio. The first is the most important when it comes to a microphone, and that's the sound quality it can capture, and this does not disappoint. The sound quality this can get is very good and will rival any microphone in this price range. I do recommend Random Frank P's review if you want to hear a direct comparison to other mics. I'm a smaller YouTube channel, so I don't keep all the products I review, as I need to sell them in order to afford other products. Otherwise, I would have a lot more that I could do comparisons with. But the audio is really good with this compared to the ones that I have used, and the build quality of the microphone itself is really good as well, which is something I would just expect from NZXT, as I've owned 3 of their cases and they've always been great quality. And even when there's something wrong, like the NZXT H1 PCIE riser screw, the company comes through and fixes it. For anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, I will have a link in the description for the Gamers Nexus video on that issue, so you can actually watch that. This issue was fixed, by the way, and I actually ended up fixing it with my case. But with that being said, this does look great next to the H1 case, which I have the white version, which is actually why I went with the white version of this microphone, as I actually plan on using this microphone with that build. They do of course offer black versions of that case and this microphone, but the white is just a big draw for me personally. I have the all black H710i case for my main build, and it looks great with that also, especially when you see it mounted on the Boom Mic Arm. It all comes together in an extremely aesthetically pleasing build. If you don't plan on using the Boom Mic Arm though, don't worry, as the stand it comes with is quality also, and the no screws quick release is great, and I hope other companies take note because I hate dealing with mic arm stand screws. This is extremely easy to take off, and then you put a backing on it that it comes with if you're going to mount it onto the Boom Mic Arm. If you switch back, it's extremely easy as you take that plate back off and then just click it right back into the stand itself. NZXT did another great thing here by including the long USB cable, because most of the mics I've tested in the past have short cables, and it's as if the companies don't think people will need a long cable to mount the mic on a boom arm, so I end up needing to buy a long cable to replace it. So kudos to NZXT for that. That helps a ton with this. I think the 96 kilohertz sample rate here will be a draw for some people also who are wanting to do some more adjustments to maybe voiceover work or anything like that, where with this, if you actually click it over to that 96 kilohertz in your settings, it'll actually make your voice very, very deep. So I'm sure there's some people out there that are going to see this as a big draw where they actually want to tinker around and maybe play around with the sounds that they can actually get out of this microphone compared to others where they don't have that sample rate. This, of course, is being recorded right now at the 48 kilohertz, but I did play around with it at 96 kilohertz, and it actually made it sound like I'm on a show trying to hide my identity. So really interesting with the range and the stuff that people could potentially do with it, but something I'm not personally going to be using. So now that I've covered the good, let's get into the bad, starting with the fact that the gain dial doesn't have an end range stop to it. This thing just keeps spinning in either direction, so you have to monitor your audio if you want to know what it sounds like. For me personally, I do a couple of checks and then just leave it, but it seems like NZXT really wants you to make sure that you're actually going to monitor your audio, otherwise it's just a shot in the dark. Granted, once it's set, you don't mess with it typically again, but with that, it would have just been nice to have that scale where, hey, I've turned it all the way to the max and then I can backtrack this and I'm at roughly 50%, which it's actually set to that out of the box. So I think they're kind of hoping that you'll stick with that, but once you adjust it, you don't know where that is again. I'm hoping this gets fixed via software or something in the future where it might pop up on your screen to tell you, or they could even have it on the LED light ring at the bottom where it would actually illuminate to tell you what the mic gain level is, which would be really, really cool. That would be a nice touch in my opinion. So hopefully we have something here soon. Otherwise, it literally is just, like I said, it's a shot in the dark about where this is if you're not monitoring that. The headphone volume is the same way if you're doing audio pass-through with the infinite spinning dial, and it controls the mic monitor volume and PC volume together. These are not separate. It actually just controls both of those at the same time. This doesn't show up on my PC though with this like other mics with audio pass-through, and I'm assuming that's because it's running the audio volume separate from your PC volume. So for me, my PC volume is set to 100%, and then I have the spinning dial all the way turned over, so this is basically the highest it will actually go, so it doesn't get any louder than this. You can only go quieter to what I have it set, but I have no idea what that's actually at. I'm just literally basing that off of the volume that I can hear. Now, most of the headsets I use have volume scroll wheels on them and the ability to monitor the mic audio, and the audio is usually independent from the PC volume, just like this is. So I'm used to tuning the volume on the headset, or in this case, the NZXT mic, and then just leaving it alone and then using the scroll wheel on my keyboard to actually control the PC volume. But for some people, this may be an adjustment that they actually have to get used to if they're doing the mic monitoring and audio pass-through with the NZXT microphone. So just like the gain dial, you're most likely going to actually set this and then not touch it again. But in this instance, you can actually use whether you have a scroll wheel on your keyboard or you're just going to go through your actual settings in Windows or whatever your OS is. You're going to adjust the volume from there, but just leave this set and not touch it again. And that's if you're going to use this for audio pass-through and not just to monitor the mic levels real quick. I think most people will just use it to get the gain set and then plug their headset back into their PC or speakers, because the highest volume this can achieve with audio pass-through isn't the best. It feels like it's 60% of what my headphones going through my speakers can do. It isn't quite loud enough, and I think for a lot of people, they'd rather have that volume that they can get out of their PC or their speakers rather than leaving their headphones plugged into this to actually do that audio pass-through. The lack of other polar patterns here might be a drawback for some people also, but since you know that, and I personally don't use anything other than cardioid for what I do, I'm fine with it, but just make sure you're okay with that before buying this because it's literally all you have. So that's actually going to be it for the negatives, but a quick side note, as I don't personally see this as a positive or negative, but you may have noticed that the audio sounds very neutral, which I think is a very conscious decision on NZXT's part. You can adjust this, of course, in post or use software to adjust it when streaming, or even in the Windows microphone settings if you use Windows, but I wouldn't call this a positive or negative thing, but rather a preference thing, and I personally like the way it sounds, but I know some people might want more bass, for instance, with this. You're just going to have to make that adjustment. Like I said, it's just not something that this inherently has with it. One other thing that I wanted to cover that I don't think is necessarily a good or a bad thing, but some people may see this as a bad thing, it's going to be Keystroke Pickup. So I actually have the microphone sitting directly in front of me. I don't typically do this. I usually have my mic on the Boom Mic Arm, but let's go ahead and give this a test really quick. And then my mouse. And then now let's go over to the Boom Mic Arm and actually test what it would sound like with that. All right, this is now mounted on the Boom Mic Arm. I do want to point out also, when you're looking at the video, I didn't actually record these at the same time. It's just to showcase that I actually was typing and all of that. But let's go ahead and do a quick test with this right now. So here's the keyboard. And then here's the mouse. So as you can hear, regardless of whether this is on the Boom Mic Arm or the stand, you're going to get pickup from your keyboard and your mouse. The thing here is that on their website, they actually say that the cardioid pattern with this was so that they would eliminate a lot of that pickup. But as you can hear, it's still there. Now, I don't personally worry about that because if you have an RTX card, you can actually get the NVIDIA broadcast, and with that, you're going to eliminate that when you actually use that software. And that's what I typically use. So I'm not actually worried about it, but I do want people to know that that is going to have pickup with it. So if that may be an issue with what you're trying to do, I don't know if you're streaming or something like that, just be mindful that unless you're going to use software to eliminate it, you're going to get some type of pickup with this. So in conclusion, this is the aesthetics NZXT is known for, with a straight out of the box plug and record approach, which I think a lot of people will appreciate in terms of its simplicity. The downside here is the lack of audio pickup pattern options, and the gain and volume dials feeling a little flimsy with no hard stops to tell you where you are at. So I'm personally very happy with this microphone, but I think you'll need to weigh the aesthetics and audio quality against the lack of options and whether you actually need them or not. NZXT is starting to seem more and more like Apple in their design approach to me, which means good aesthetics and simplicity, but at the cost of options sometimes. Maybe that's just me, but let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section. Which, speaking of the comment section, if you have any questions about this microphone that I didn't cover in this review, let me know there and I will answer those for you. If you liked the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.